Hey guys, this is Barry from WarVisionGaming, and I'm here today to do a little video on the conversion corner. I've got some models for Adeptus Mechanicus that I made some conversions on, and today I want to show you these conversions, and of course in line with the new codex that just come out. And of course I've already gotten my hands on one. Really excited about this, and I'm really glad that now there's an HQ for Adeptus Mechanicus. The Tech Priest has been added to the Tech Priest engines here, I should say, has been added to the list of HQs, which it really needed, as I spoke of in a video earlier. So, without further ado, I'm going to show you these conversions I've done, and I hope you like them. So welcome to my well-used cutting mat. First off, I'm going to show you these Skitarii upgrades that you all know and heard about, of course. This is the Omnispecs, and this is the Enhanced Data Tether, whatever you want to call it. So first off, this is of course a very popular upgrade in the new codex, and therefore I wanted both of these models in my army, of course, but I don't want them to all look alike, so I made a little conversion, and here is my guy with the Omnispecs. I know it's a bit of a basic position, but I don't really mind, as I simply wanted a different position, most and foremost. What I did actually is simply use a pistol arm, and I put the Omnispecs on here, gave him a different head, and this is one of the weapons from the kit where you have an entire gun, and I've cut that gun in half right here, and then use a normal front half of a arm that was a bit upwards, and when you glue it together it looks like he's holding the gun at the ready on the foregrip, and it just looks different than your casual one. So now I have two different models, and that's what I wanted, of course. And here is the same guy, so I can field any option I like. And this guy has the Enhanced Data Theater. Did the same thing, pistol arm, glued the Data Theater microphone thingy on it. What I'm going to do still is put a little piece of guitar wire in here. I'll finish that up later. I did the same thing. I cut in here and used half of the gun that comes with the kit and half of another arm. And of course, if you've got Rangers as well, you've got plenty of spare parts on those galvanic rifles. So, well, next up, you all know the Alpha. But I wanted an Alpha without any upgrades, but I still wanted him to look like an Alpha, and I wanted him to look different than the other Alphas I have. So this is one that I already had, with a power sword and a False 4 blaster. And here is one I made, and again I used one of the guns that comes with the kit, but this time I used the half that I had left over from the other Skitarii guys with the upgrades. So I used the other half. And this way he does have a basic loadout, and he does also look like an Alpha. But what I did more to this guy is I've used a dragoon head and added the crest to him. So I have a different head than the other two alphas, and I think it looks awesome. So that's it for Skitarii. Let's move on to something a little more interesting. And that's my data smith. Here's a basic one that I got from a website. Didn't do the painting on this one, but this is the basic option. And all you get is a head swap on these guys. So what I wanted was to really give it a different look and feel, because a head swap only just didn't quite do the trick for me. So I did swap the head, of course, but I made him look into a different direction. And I added a cable, because of course I had to cut away the other cable, because that would have fixed the position. Furthermore, it used to have a data spike, now it's gone from the decks, too bad. But still I wanted to add it, just because it looks great. And this is from the infiltrators, or I guess it's from the other guys, the rust stalkers. I'm not sure. No, it's from the infiltrators. Yeah, the infiltrator guy the alpha has one of those data spikes. So I had that left over since I made some rust stalkers, and I used it on here. Just added it onto the backpack right here. I swapped out his regular power fist with a Puppet power fist, a completely mechanized one, which looks great, and just, you know, giving him a bit of a different look and feel. Now, what I did to him was change the position of the pistol so that he's actually aiming right at you. Searchlight is also aiming where he is looking, and I've changed the fingers on his servo arm, as you can see. And I did the same thing with the little hand right here. Changed the arm that is on there. I think this is actually a leftover from the Catapron Breachers, and it just gives him a different look, and the hand looks a bit more like the fingers on the servo arm. And you just get a really different look and feel, which is what I wanted, of course.
Barry had the same problem with the big bad Castellan robots. There's a lot of people online complaining about the heads. We personally have to agree they are horrible. Maybe if you give them a really good paint job, it could work out as something cool, like this voiceover.
But I found these alternate heads. I went to a Wargame exclusive and I got myself a set of alternate heads, which I think looks great on these guys. But I did do a lot more to this model, as you can see. I also thought the shoulder pads were quite small, so what I did is I added a plastic card, sort of shoulder guard to it. I simply cut out triangles here, and after I've angled this down, this is a piece of 3mm plastic card, I believe, then I cut out these semi-squares and used a rounded file to simply file this out until it was nice and smooth and round. Over here you take a small 1.5mm drill, and to kind of recreate these things, you drill in small holes and add pieces of plastic card rod afterward with a bit of super glue, and it looks about the same. I think it looks great, actually. And here comes the cool part. I added these ammo boxes. These are actually leftover from the Myrmidon Secutors that I have. They're from the Maxim Bolters. I didn't use those as there's a lot of better weapon options on those guys. So I had these lying around as spare parts. So I cut off the Maxim Bolter part and used the ammo clip as the ammo clip for my guy. And then I added this flexible resin ammo belt to really grasp that feel, because the small ammo feed that normally comes with the kit really just didn't quite do it for me. Especially if you take into consideration that still with the new codex up, these guys under Protector Protocol, they fire all of their guns twice. That hasn't changed. I'm really glad about that, because that is awesome and I use it a lot. And I really wanted to grasp that feel where they are just blazing their weapons unrelentingly. So I added these orc spent ammo shells, and what I want to do is add some muzzle flares to this, maybe even a flamer, a flare to the flamer right here, but I will do that later. I fixed up a nice base for this guy, and if you want to know more about these bases, you can click on the link for the tutorial on how to do these bases right here. And I've got a buddy for this guy, and here I even added a third phosphor weapon. Heavy phosphor blasters is what they're equipped with, I believe. So again, a lot of changes to the model. This was a bit harder actually, because I wanted to have all of his guns as a little bit of a 12-year-old idea of mine. I just wanted one of these models to be all guns blazing. But the kit is a bit stiff in its positioning, so what I had to do was cut in here, and I put a bit of pinning in here and bended it to the left, and later I fixed it up with some green stuff and just put those lines back in here. And I think I'm going to paint that as some black dark grayish rubber stuff right here. That's just a bit flexible, I guess. Again, spent ammo casing, but this time a lot of it on all the guns, as you can see. This gun is actually magnetized. I wanted to be able to swap out for the flamer. I'm pretty proud of how this guy turned out, because it works really well as a separate shoulder mount. Ignore the pin here, it's for the muzzle flare that will be on this model. Again, I added a Mechanicum base to it, because I want to make an entire table like this. I had a bit of a problem here with the flexible resin. I'm hoping it won't come out after I painted it, and of course, since I changed the angle of the arm, I had to add some more cabling over here, and I think it looks a lot like the cabling that's actually on him, so that will be fine. I'm really proud of those guys. And lastly, I have some HQs. Now, I'm really glad with the new codex, as you can now take a tech priest as an HQ as well. But unless you played Mars, you only had one HQ in the previous codex, and if you played Mars, you had Belisarius Call. Now, I do play Mars, but I wanted to have a little bit more HQs than the standard tech priest, because although I love the model, it is very specific in its pose, and just a head swap again didn't quite do it for me. And of course you can give him different weapon options, but it just didn't do the trick for me that it really feels like another HQ if you feel two of these. So I wanted one of the original GW Tech Priest Dominus, and I wanted to make two which one of them has a different weapon loadout and the other has the same weapon loadout. But really wanted to give them a different look and feel. So here's one, and I'm sorry that I already started painting it. I was a bit enthused about this guy. And this is actually the basic kit. And what I did is I changed the position of his torso right here, and when you put him upright, then suddenly he becomes pretty big. And I loved the look and feel of this, especially combined with the head that I didn't like on the other model, and it looks great on this guy, as this guy seems a bit more, I don't know, full of himself, I guess, on his high horse. But really what I wanted to do was make him look totally different than the basic guy, and I think that worked out fine. I did a lot of stuff to this guy, as I was really missing a servo arm on the original model. So I used the servo arm that comes with the Onager June Crawler kit, and it looks perfect on his back. Also, I made him an axe, and this is actually a pretty multi-part project, as a piece of the arm over here is from the standard bearer on the bike from the Ravenwing Knights kit. And what worked out great is that it has two cables on it, a small one and a big one, and the original model had that as well. So when you merge them together, it worked out great. I just glued it over here. And it was glued over here, yeah. So I almost forgot to add this guitar wire, so that's why it's not primed. But that won't be a problem, just put some rust in it, I guess. And the same went for the full kite over here. The axe is actually made from plastic art, which was a tough job to do. I have some pictures of this when it still was in plastic art. So let me show you those now. As you can see, I really use a lot of bits on this model. It's actually a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, used about 8 bits on this axe alone. There's a big pin running through the middle, just to keep everything together. Keep it together, man.
I am trying to keep it together.
I added a nice servo skull that comes with the kit, of course. I actually used a breacher plate that I have left over from all my destroyers, and the breacher groin plate I used as well. And when you put it together, it looked great. And there is a tech priest from the Fulgurite priests. They have these on top of their heads, and I used it as sort of an iron halo. The Volkite is glued onto a breacher arm, and there are some more breacher arms over here, or destroyer arms, I think. And I used some of the arms that sit on the weapons for some reason over here to give him two weird tiny arms on his midsection that I can see him use typing keyboards and stuff. And when you put everything together, I think it comes out great. Oh, there's a little Sicarian arm over here holding his macro stubber. Oh. So there's a Skitari arm over here holding his macro stubber. And lastly, and I haven't painted this yet, I have a Tech Priest Dominus that I converted from a Forge World Myrmidon Secutor. I bought some extras because those guys have some cool weapon options, and you have to buy like 3 kits to get all the options. So I had some bodies laying around that I didn't use, and they make for great Tech Priests, as you can see. Now, again, a lot has been done to this model. There is a Anvil Industry arm over here, and an Anvil Industry servo arm over here. The servo skull comes from the Destroyer's kit, I mean, what are they called? The Space Marine Heavy Weapon set. Yeah.
Devastators.
So a lot of cables have been added to this model, as you can see, just to really get that Mechanicum feel. Here is a Skitari arm with a core claw that it just looked great, so I wanted to add that. This is from the Tech Priest from the Astro Claws with these weird whips. Use one of them as maybe a data spike or something. And I used a Breacher arm to equip him with a Phosphor Serpenta. And with the new codex we can of course upgrade this to the relic, the Phosphor Serpenta relic, which I think is called the Phosphoenix. Yeah, I do believe it's called the Phosphoenix, and that would be a great option. So again, I added a breacher plate and added some parts from the Fugrite priests that I had laying about to really put everything together. I actually used, I do own a 30k HQ for Adeptus Mechanicum, yeah. And I had this alternative hat for him laying around, and it looks great on him. So the front half of this servo arm is actually from 30k Servitors. And here again is a breacher arm on which I added his gun. And I love how this model turned out. And again, I gave him a cool base. I'll give you a close-up on that. Oh.
Epic!
And again, if you want to watch the tutorial on these bases, you can watch it right here. So,